Well, good afternoon to you. It is 3:06, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up today, this hour, Senator Jim Justice from West Virginia will be with us. The top of the next hour, we've got the senator from Kansas, Roger Marshall, is here. The president of the Heritage Foundation at 5 o'clock. He'll join us then. And then at 5:30, our very own in-house economist, E.J. Antoni, stops by. A lot of news to get to today. You can join us. 888-630-9625. 888-630-WMAL. We are just a few hours away from President Trump's first joint address to Congress as the 47th president of the United States. And he already has a full administration's worth of accomplishments to share in just over a month. It'll be a very busy night. Also, I'm seeing some reports right now that we could get a gigantic announcement about the war in Ukraine this evening as Volodymyr Zelensky has begun signaling his regret for the way things went in that Oval Office meeting on Friday. That's something that the White House was looking for. So we could see a lot of surprises tonight. It wouldn't be the first time in one of these joint addresses to Congress by President Trump that he has surprised and captivated the nation. Remember, it was 5 years ago at the State of the Union in 2020 that President Trump awarded Rush Limbaugh a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Presidential Medal of Freedom before his untimely passing. And that brings us to something that's personal today for me, which is by now maybe you've seen or maybe you were listening to Dan in these last 3 hours. Big news in my life, which is that beginning on March 17th, that would be the weekend after Dan Bongino steps down from his role on radio and into the government yet again as the deputy director of the FBI, I'll be stepping in to host my program nationwide from 12 to 3 each day to be heard on hundreds of radio stations all across the country in a time slot that has historic meaning. Historic meaning. Whether you listened at the time, like I did, that Rush Limbaugh built that time slot, or you listened as a part of the Bongino army to Dan and his massively successful show, I am very cognizant, very, very cognizant of the immense honor it is to be able to speak in the middle of the day between 12 and 3 p.m. Eastern to this audience nationwide. And I'm going to be, of course, I'll have an opportunity to talk about this on that version of the program. I'm going to be filling in for Dan this Friday. He's got a lot of work to do to get ready to become deputy director of the FBI. My guess is every waking moment is filled with unwinding from media and certainly engaging with the Federal Bureau of Investigation as he's about to arrive there. He's got a lot of things on his plate. But I want to just dedicate at least my conversation right now with you to the WMAL audience. Understand that for me, that none of this happens if it's not for you. None of this. I'm not just trying to be, to demonstrate some sort of false humility or anything. I realize that the way this is supposed to work or should is that people rise and fall on meritocracy. That if you succeed on the basis of what you bring to the table and how hard you work. I got all that. But I'm telling you, the reason that the way this is all happening, and if you've missed it today, I will be hosting in the Dan Bongino time slot on his podcast. We're going to be changing the podcast to the name of it. It's going to be Vince. That'll be the podcast beginning on the 17th. And then the nationwide radio show from 12 to 3, that'll be, I think that we're calling it the Vince Show. I'm supposed to speak with more certainty on it, but as you can tell, everything's been moving very quickly. It's the Vince Show coming up. 12 to 3. And the reason all of this can happen is because of the audience response. That's the explanation for this. The reason that Westwood One, the syndicating company, has put their faith in me for this is because of you, the audience response that we've had here on WMAL. The reason Dan is putting his faith in me for his podcast, specifically, is because of the audience response. All of these times that I've had an opportunity to speak to his audience, guest hosting on his show, it's been as simple as that. It's just been the audience responded really, really well. And as a result, Dan was kind enough to both invite me to do this, to take the helm of the podcast, and additionally, generous enough with me to share the data. He's like, look, Vince, I just looked at the scoreboard. This is a very simple equation for me. I looked at the scoreboard, and there you were at the tippy top. So you're the right guy for this. So I'm humbled by that. It's going to be exhilarating. I can let me again just an advanced preview to the extent that I can give any right now on what we're going to do. I'm telling you, we will have one of the biggest launch weeks you've ever heard on all of radio. It is going to be an amazing time. An amazing time. I'm going to spend a lot of time, of course. You go into a world like this. And Dan had to do this as he was speaking to Rush's audience. Rush's audience is hanging in there, figuring out, okay, who's this guy? Dan had to go through this experience. I'm going to have to go through this experience now with a very loyal audience to Dan Bongino. And convince the Bongino army that I'm completely and utterly on their side, which I am. I'm enthusiastic about the Bongino army and all of the themes that Dan talks about. We are of like mind. So it's going to be very exciting to engage in that conversation, to have these gigantic shows right out the gate. And if you know anybody who's, perhaps listens around the country, who's maybe accustomed to Dan because they listen somewhere else, but not to Vince, here's your opportunity. Tell them you're not going to want to miss Vince. Or at least I hope that's the position you take. Just between me and you, please say that. Because priority one, and again, I know look, this program is about the news of the day, and I'm talking about me right now, but I just have to say, I know at the gate a lot of people are wondering about how all of this went down and what's to come next. I just think this is going to be so much fun. It's unbelievable. And one of the joys for me is I get to continue to do this broadcast from WMAL in Washington, D.C. That's not changing. And the other piece is I get to follow Chris Plant here in WMAL in Washington, D.C., nationally syndicated Chris Plant. It's unbelievable, actually, and wonderful. And I am thoroughly, thoroughly excited about it. And once again, it does go back to you. It is a reflection of your response to this program that we get to take this thing to the next level. And for those of you who your radio listening is really much more dependent on your commute, perhaps, or if you might not be able to catch me all the time from 12 to 3, we're going to do everything we can to make sure there's an audio product available for you, to make sure you can hear it, including that podcast, which you'll be able to listen to at any time that you'd like. So I just say this again, thank you. God bless you. And one last thing, and then I'll take your calls. We have a lot of calls coming in on this subject, and thank you for that. I also want to mention, and he's in the middle of answering phones right now, so he may not even hear what I'm saying right now. Corey and Ganamort, our producer here, producer Corey, who you've heard so much from, I don't actually know how this transpired, but he is already destined to leave. That's the news here. Corey, I'm telling them that you're leaving. Corey he and I have had a lot of conversations about this, of course. We love working together. We've built, I think, a great show together. And Corey was kind of going through, trying to make a decision about what to do for himself and for his career. And earlier this year, I hope I'm not speaking out of school here as I tell this. He's telling me okay. He was planning on leaving or even earlier this year. And I convinced him, I was like, Corey, look what we've done together. We've built something that I think has been so good, you should get to enjoy the fruits of your labor, right? The Trump administration's here. We'll get to go. I'll do all sorts of cool things. We'll go to the White House together. We'll be able to cover all these events. You're going to love it. We had 4 years of Biden. Ugh. Now we got 4 years of Trump. Let's party, brother. And that was convincing enough that he said, okay, fine, I'll stay longer. And he was going to stay through October of this year. And then Town Hall made him an offer he couldn't refuse. The great people over at Town Hall, they said they really want Corey and Ganamort. They said, we need Corey. And they made a good offer. So Corey said, look, Vince, I hate to tell you, but a few short weeks, I'm going to have to go. And I do not know how this lined up other than through divine intervention, that Corey is leaving exactly at this moment. Corey's last day is actually this week, Friday. At the very same time that I'm changing over, and I'll be working with the great Jim Verdi, who I love, over on the Dan Bongino show. We'll get to work together. And you know what's cool about all this? Everybody gets to be gainfully employed. at the end of it. Everybody gets to keep their job. This is unheard of in media. Nobody gets to keep their job. So normally when there's some sort of change in media, when somebody else gets a time slot or whatever, there's a massive changing of the guard. Everybody's getting fired. All sorts of people have to lose their jobs in order for someone else to get their job. That's not what's happening here. Dan Bongino is becoming deputy director of the FBI. I'm taking over from 12 to 3. Corey and Ganamort's headed off to town hall. And then I get to work with Jim and Mike on the Dan Bongino show, which will now be, as you know, the Vince show. So the Lord above has seen all of this through. And for that, I am so thoroughly grateful. And for you, I'm grateful too, which is why I should probably start with some of our regulars who are now calling in. Donna is in Frederick on line 2. Donna, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese show.
Well, congratulations. What wonderful news this afternoon. And to hear Jim and Micah going with you. I have to admit, Corey leaving is bittersweet for me.
Me too.
And I hope Corey's listening, that I want to stay in touch with Corey because I love him. And he's been a great asset to you. But I adore you. I think you're going to do phenomenal as a affectionately called P1 listener. I'm telling you right now, that day where you stepped in for Dan recently, I think I even spoke with you that day. That was one of your best shows. You were so on point that day. You're excellent at this, and you deserve every bit of it. And I'm very happy for the team all around.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you for that. It means a lot to me. And this has been, so far, I've been at WMAL for 8 years. I say so far because that continues, which I'm really excited about come March 17th, just in a different time slot. I love this place. And this is where I should probably mention, of course mention, that my gratitude also extends to our program director, Bill Hess, who looked at me coming in as a guest host for our morning show, and at first, just as a guest host, and said, that guy has something that's worth putting on more routinely. And so it was through Bill's vision that I was able to do this. It's a funny industry, radio. You know, everyone in radio, mostly people just they crave an opportunity to join a top market, a major market. And DC is, as you know, a major market. And for a guy like me with a limited radio background, I had a little bit and a small station in North Carolina, which I adore. Beyond that, I was a guy who was coming out of print journalism, and Bill said, this guy can do radio here. And so that has been an utter privilege, and it was his vision that allowed me to do this. Heather Hunter, the producer of our morning show, who produces right now for O'Connor and Company, she's an amazing producer. It was by her wisdom. It was literally by her graciousness that I was able to guest host in the first place. So in other words, like, this is not something that one person does. There's a lot of people that make this happen. And so I'm very grateful to all of them. And Donna, thank you. I'm always grateful for your call.
My pleasure, Vince.
Thank
Good
you,
luck.
Donna. Let's get Chris and Marshall, the front line of the Heartland, line 1. Hello, Chris. You're on the Vince Coglianese show.
Boy, I would say that I nailed it, but it was my child bride that said, I bet you Vince is going to get that slot.
Your child bride.
She otherwise known as she who must be obeyed.
Uh-huh.
I can't think of any other instances that I've been awestruck listening to the radio. You're open in your monologue on so many occasions. I've just been gobsmacked. And your success and your star is only going to rise as far as your audience. And this is an outstanding opportunity for us in the D.C. area to proudly share you with a national audience. And, God love Corey as well. I've spent some time with Corey, and he's onward and upward as well.
Yeah.
But listen, I got one caveat, my friend. I want the secret back phone number, because I don't want to have to compete with the entire nation when I try to call you between noon and 3.
You know what? I'm going to tell Mike to keep his eyes open for you, Chris. And I know that you and Donna. I've heard you on these Dan Bongino shows. So I fully expect to have a lot more conversations with you, Chris. Thank you.
Very much. God bless you all. And you're right. What a symbiotic, simpatico arrangement for everybody involved. How wonderful. It's just like clean living.
Chris, thank you very much, as always. All right. Let me, one of the perils of starting to reel off a list of people to thank is you instantly forget some important people and you don't mention them right away. My brother just texted me. He goes, your wife, he's texting me in the middle of the last segment. That goes without saying. My amazing wife, who really just makes everything possible. Everything. I'm so grateful to her. She's a critical element to all of this. Let's see here. I've got Leo in Colorado, line 5. Leo, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Vince, oh my God, you can hear me yelling congratulations from Colorado. I can't believe this.
I thought that was
awesome. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, as one of your biggest listeners and advocates out here, I always tell people, go to WMAL online. Go to WMAL online. Now I can just say, go to your local radio station. It hosts whatever nationwide and listen.
Yeah.
And I also want that back phone number because I don't want to have to fight with everybody in the nation now.
You know, the nice thing about handling this particular question is I have no idea what the back phone number is right now, so I can't even help you with that. But I will say that I think we're going to become accustomed to all of our favorites, including you, Leo, calling us during the noon to 3 hours. So thank you for that. Always good to talk to you, Leo.
You're quite welcome, Vince. Good luck. And I'm kind of PO'd at Corey because he didn't mention. He always answers, "Hey, Leo, what do you got today?" And now, oh my gosh, I gotta make a new, bond with the call screeners.
Jim's a good dude, and Mike's a good dude. Mike will answer the phones there, and you'll like Mike.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Mike, too. Lots of great people, honestly. I'm totally blessed. Great, as always, to talk to you. This is going to continue. We've got to finish this show out. So we're going to do that. I'll give you more details. Trust me. This is my audience. WMAL, love you people. All right, coming up, we're going to be joined by Senator Jim Justice ahead of President Trump's remarks to a joint session of Congress tonight. What to expect? We'll ask the senator. A good afternoon to you. It's now 3:35 here at Newstalk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up top of the hour, Senator Roger Marshall from Kansas will be with us. Then at 5 o'clock, the president of the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, is here. And then at 5:30, the in-house economist for this fine program, E.J. Antoni, will join us. And you can talk to us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. In case you're wondering, Senate Democrats continue to be stuck on stupid. Yesterday, they blocked a bill designed to protect women's sports from men who cheat and hurt women. Yeah, they can't. Once again, another 80-20 issue where Democrats take the 20 and Americans say, what are you doing? Joining us now to discuss, a co-sponsor of the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, Jim Justice, the senator from West Virginia, is on the phone. Senator, good to have you with us, sir.
Vince, thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Of course. So tell me about this legislation. What did it intend to do?
Well, Vince, you got to understand, Coach Tuberville he's a great man. This is the third go-round for this same bill.
Yeah.
It is preposterous beyond belief that we really have no Democrat support, and really at the end of the day, what on God's earth could they possibly be thinking? I mean, overwhelmingly, the people are wholeheartedly behind the effort of what Coach Tuberville came up with, and with all that being said, I'm a proud co-sponsor, but not only that, I had the opportunity to write the NCAA and absolutely voice my opinion. I had a bunch of senators on that with me, but with all that being said, why? I mean, we've got to pull our head out of our and realize in America that our kids, and I'm a girls' high school basketball coach right now, and our kids our girls deserve an opportunity to be able to compete. They deserve an opportunity to exercise Title IX.
Yeah.
They deserve an opportunity to learn all the great stuff that sports brings us, and we're denying them that, and then would even allow men in the girls' dressing room. It's so ridiculous that nobody can make this up.
It's beyond belief. Do the girls call you coach or senator, sir?
Well, they call me coach.
Yeah.
I've coached forever.
I love that. I love it. You know, it's funny. Every time I talk to Senator Tuberville, somebody in his office is like, you can just call him Coach. And I'm like, okay, Coach. I go with Coach all the time for Coach Tuberville, too, which is pretty cool. But you're right. I mean, this really is about protecting a level playing field for the girls and the women who participate in these sports. It used to be that I think the left used to understand that, but right now they're pretending like they don't. The law would make sure everyone knows that Title IX funding is contingent on actually protecting women's sports, which the left suddenly doesn't want to do.
Well, 100% right. And Vince, the impossible thing to figure this out, or try to figure this out, is how can possibly people think this way? I mean, really and truly, if we think of women and girls in sports and how hard they compete, how much dedication they've got to have to hone their skills and make them absolutely able to compete, and through all of that, all the discipline, all the hours, all the work, I mean, it is unbelievable. Vince, I got to tell you this real quick.
Yes.
My daughter went and played basketball for Clemson and then went to Marshall, and she played for Marshall and the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
I can remember every single day she would get up, go out to the football field, go through this jumping, plyometric stuff. Then she would run, a 440 and 880, 800-yard sprints. Then she would come in the gym and shoot 500 shots, then come home and go out and do things in the summer with her friends and everything. And then at night, go back in the gym and play. And it was 7 days a week, every single day. And absolutely, that's how hard they work. They work unbelievably. My little basketball team is 22-1. And they're on the way, they got one more game, and then they're on the way to the state tournament to the final 8.
Wow.
But with all that being said, they work so hard, it's unbelievable. They deserve a chance to be able to compete. They deserve a chance to participate in Title IX. They absolutely are being discriminated against beyond belief by a bunch of people that think they're more righteous than thou,
Yes.
and that's the Democrats.
Did you say your girls are 22-1 right now?
They're 22-1. I don't know how we lost that one.
That's a heck of a record. And you didn't bring in any boys as ringers, right?
No boys as ringers. Goodness gracious. Kidding me?
Yeah, I know. That's unbelievable. That's so cool. Well, good for you. Good for the girls. That's fantastic. President Trump tonight, as a part of this joint address to the nation, he's going to bring this issue up, and he'll do it in part by having one of the guests of the First Lady, Peyton McNabb, will be with him, who we've talked to on this program before. Peyton is a former high school volleyball player who wanted to compete in college, but in September of 2022, now 3 years ago, during a volleyball match, she was facing off against a biological male who spiked a volleyball so hard into her, he left her with a traumatic brain injury, which cut her athletic career short. And she's been speaking out about this ever since, just the immense differences that are quite obvious. And the peril, it's not just the cheating, but the outright peril to women competing against boys in these sports.
Well, it's just terrible. I mean, for crying out loud, if you think about Peyton, you think about the Olympic boxer.
Yes.
That, walked right in the ring and the guy just KO'd her, and everything. And she dropped to her knees and started crying. It was so pitifully sad. And so I hope President Trump, brings it out in a really profound way. I know that he will.
Yes.
But it's just, like I said just a second ago, it's a group of people that for some perverted reason think they're more righteous than thou, and it's just wrong. It's just plain wrong. And if you ever they wanted to come in a gymnasium and watch, kids work and everything and work really, really hard, they're welcome to come to any of my practices any day and everything and see these kids and just see how good these kids truly are. They're funny. They're great to be around, and I love them with all my soul. I've done it forever and a day, and
So cool.
As long as God gives me breath and I'm able to some way make it all happen, I'm going to try to make it happen.
I love that. I do want to see if you can help us get into the mentality of these Democrats, though, for a moment. You, as people know, used to be a Democrat. And yet, I don't know that you would even recognize the behavior of the people who you share the Senate with. Senators voting along party lines yesterday on this bill to protect women's sports. All the Democrats saying they'd rather let the boys cheat. What explains that? How could all those Democrats do that?
Vince, the only thing I can possibly say is the Democrats have been world class at this. I would always say just count the egg-sucking cows that are in the field if you want to know how many cows are out there. The Democrats want to count the legs and divide by 4. And the reason they do that is they can keep it so confused that just maybe we won't be smart enough to figure it out. But it's just there's nothing about this that's fair. There's nothing about this that's right. It is absolutely just wrong in every way. It's discriminatory. It's everything bad that you can come up with about something. And and they won't take the time. They'll never take the time to be with kids. They'll never take the time to be with our women. They'll never take the time to do that. They just want to sit and judge. And that's really bad.
It's awful. Okay, so tonight the president set to speak. You'll be in attendance for that joint session of Congress. A lot of Democrats are already protesting, refusing to show up. I'm not coming. I don't want to see the president of the United States speak about the issues that affect the country. The president's theme tonight is the renewal of the American dream. What do you expect, Senator Jim Justice, as President Trump takes the dais?
Well, he's already done an awful lot of stuff, and we all know that, whether it be tightening up our border or on and on and on, And absolutely the biggest thing that I think is just this is, at the end of the day, I'm a business guy. And I've always been that. I want to be respectful to the Democrats. I want to be respectful to independents, Republicans. I always want to be that. But being a business guy, I would tell you, Vince, just this. I know we're going to be able to mine the store and really genuinely find all kinds of waste and all kinds of things that can be cut, and we won't lose a step. I know that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I would tell you, being a business guy, that we'll never be able to completely cut our way out of this mess. We're going to have to grow. We're going to have to absolutely grow revenue. And the answer to absolutely the whole thing, and President Trump knows this, and we've had a bunch of conversations about this, is energy. This country sits on so much energy, it's unbelievable. And I don't know why in the world we can't be the next Saudi Arabia. I don't know why anyone in their right mind ought not know that energy, no matter how big or how small a country is, the more energy you have, the longer their people live, the healthier they are, the more goodness that comes to them. Now, sure, I'm a person that says embrace all the alternatives, embrace all the energies.
Yes.
But for crying out loud, that to me is a gigantic answer to the whole problem, and I expect the president to talk about that a bunch.
So on this issue of energy, I want to talk about your state, West Virginia. You've been governor there. Now you're a senator for the state. West Virginia, we know, has a lot of coal, but it also has a lot of natural gas. In other words, West Virginia's economy stands to benefit immensely if we're to use it appropriately. How has the federal government been in the way in West Virginia, and what can President Trump do to help unleash things?
Well, in all fairness to that, the federal government has gotten to the point in time where the Democrats are absolutely trying to strangle the fossil fuels into oblivion. And in doing so, they've done it through the regulatory process. Honestly, it takes years to get a permit, to try to figure out how you're going to go to the bathroom. It is absolutely the most preposterous thing in the world. And so we have got to turn energy loose in this country. We have the cleanest energy. That's the other thing, Vince. Countries all across the globe, whether it be the Chinese, for every pound of coal that they burn versus a pound of coal coming from West Virginia, we are so much cleaner, so much better. Absolutely. Maybe someday the alternatives will be able to take over, but it's decades and decades away, if ever. So the net of the whole thing is we have a real opportunity here. I really believe President Trump will show the world and just absolutely just do exactly what he said. Paint the next chapter to the American dream. Absolutely, and let us go.
Amen.
Let us absolutely turn us loose.
All right. Senator Jim Justice of the great state of West Virginia, please give Baby Dog a pet for us. We appreciate your time today. All right, let's see. I've got Ivan calling in from Florida right now, line 4. Ivan, you are on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, sir.
Hey, what's up, Vince? Man, I couldn't wait to just call you and congratulations. Good job. Good on you. It's like George Jefferson, man. You're moving on up. But listen, hey, look, but you earned this. You earned every bit of this, Vince. It's just like Dan. Dan, could have stayed, taken money and whatever, but he decided to serve his country.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you good, is that you're doing this for the love of your country. I mean, sure, you're earning a living and you're making a living, but you're doing it because you love the country. And that's I say good on you, man. And Vince, who knew that Zelensky would be back trying to make a mineral deal? All you had to do was wait a couple of days, and now he's back groveling again. And I don't trust him at all. And I know Trump is smart enough. After he did that the phone call thing, the original phone call thing that Trump got impeached for, and then the bogus the fiasco at the White House. I know Trump won't trust him, and I wouldn't trust him. But let's hope peace comes in Ukraine.
I'm totally with you. First of all, thanks for all your kind words. I appreciate that, Ivan. And on President Trump, I heard somebody say it recently, some lefty who finally came to a realization. He's like, Trump's kind of smarter than all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd say that's true. And look, this idea that Trump's a big deal maker. Yeah, he is. His whole life has been a series of high stakes negotiations, including as president of the United States previously. And here he is again. A guy who has an instinct for when to walk away from a deal in order to improve its outcome. That is a critical thing to have. And President Trump on Friday said, all of this disrespect, all of this garbage, after treating Zelensky so nice in the Oval Office, he did over the course of 45 minutes, and Zelensky blows the whole thing up. Trump makes a tactical decision to walk away. Not an emotional one, not one that's predicated on just being insane and doing whatever you want and hoping you look good. It was entirely about what can he achieve. And now we are getting these reports that you're talking about, Ivan, that President Trump could tonight announce that they have a mineral deal. This comes after Zelensky today started expressing on social media that he, quote, regrets the way things went on Friday. It's not a full-blown apology, but he's starting to use that phrase, regret. And President Trump somehow was able to swing him back to the table after all of that chaos. And, of course, the media has just been screeching since Friday. And, of course, President Trump had a plan, and it looks like it's coming to fruition.
Hey, Vince, listen, I can't wait for your guest list. Maybe some guy named Bongino or Bongino, what's his name? and maybe Donald J. Trump will be on your guest list. And lastly, just remember Tony Kornheiser?
Yeah.
Don't forget the littles, Vince.
That'll never happen.
Hey, we're rooting for you, man. We're rooting for you all the way.
Ivan,
all right.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Ivan. I really appreciate that. I've got Yvonne calling in from Clifton here, line 3. Yvonne, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Vince, I am so thrilled for you, really.
Thank you.
I have to tell you, as soon as I heard that Dan Bongino got this position as deputy FBI, I was sure that you were going to be in that spot. I was. I said, who else? Because you're perfect for this. I am so glad that you were selected.
I'll get into more of the. Thank you, Yvonne. That's so sweet of you. I'll get into more of the details as time moves along. But
Vince, I'm going to miss calling because I know I won't be able to get through.
Oh, we'll get you through, Yvonne. It'll be all right. This was, in a lot of ways, a surprise to me too. But I really appreciate that, and I'm also going to spend some time dwelling on the decision that Dan made here. It's a big one. He's going back to serve his country. It's about as selfless as it gets, and we'll talk about that. We got a lot to get to. Coming up, Senator Roger Marshall from Kansas today ahead of the president's remarks.